unites people? Stories. No one can stop us now. Slowly rebuilding, I feel it in me. Slowly rebuilding, I feel it in me.
Out early. As you saw this morning, we've announced our intent to unite WarnerMedia and Discovery to bring together their complementary strengths to create a new company with a solidified position in global direct-to-consumer. We're excited about this opportunity, for it creates WarnerMedia and Discovery, and what it also does for AT&T, our customers, our employees, and our shareholders. David and I want to spend the most of our time today answering your questions, but before we start, I'll make a few brief comments about why we're doing this and why we're doing this now. Let me start by saying the WarnerMedia team has done a phenomenal job in coming together over the past couple of years, and today's deal is possible only because of what they've achieved together. Second, it's important to keep in mind we've also already demonstrated healthy returns on our investment in WarnerMedia, including the cash generated from the business since it was acquired. Those close to this journey know that only through the combined efforts of WarnerMedia's exceptional brands and content and AT&T's management conviction, distribution expertise, relative competitive position, and commercial clout did HBO Max establish itself as a domestic U.S. streaming leader. Today's announcement is the next step in enhancing the value of WarnerMedia and creating its future globally. The opportunities in direct-to-consumer streaming are rapidly evolving, and to keep pace and maintain a leadership position, several things are required: global scale, access to capital, a broad array of high-quality content, and industry-best talent. It's my responsibility as the capital allocator in chief to ensure our structure facilitates these objectives. WarnerMedia is the most awarded leader in scripted entertainment, animation, news, and sports, and their strong, consistent execution has cemented their foothold in the United States, in addition to positioning them well for continued growth and rapid international expansion. As you know, Discovery is a leader in unscripted, real-life entertainment, and by combining these two companies, it creates one of the most compelling content portfolios in the world and enables the new combined company to have a content spend that exceeds most of its industry peers. By doing this now, WarnerMedia will be better suited to self-fund its growth moving forward, and AT&T will have better flexibility to invest in 5G and fiber to support the growing long-term demand for reliable, high-speed connectivity. But a little bit more about AT&T in just a bit. David, would you like to share some thoughts on what this means for Discovery?
Thanks so much, John. First, I just wanted to say how grateful I am to you, John. These last few months together, architecting this deal, actually secretly from my brownstone in Greenwich Village, has been fun and exhilarating and a truly bonding experience. So a big thank you to you, my friend and partner. This is a truly exciting day and a seminal event for our respective companies. I also want to thank the Discovery family from our steady leadership team, supportive board, and our amazing global workforce. This next leg of our journey is a result of the thousands of Discovery employees worldwide and their tireless dedication, imagination, and creativity, an overall track record for excellence. Together, we have a purpose-driven culture committed to telling great stories that entertain and, at their best, inspire. I could not be more excited about this next new chapter. I want to commend the enormously talented WarnerMedia leadership team on the incredible assets that you have built, the wonderful job you have done as stewards of these historic brands, and the hard work over the last 3 years pivoting WarnerMedia into one of the leading streaming companies in the world. I have known and worked with Jason and Toby for years, and of course, my friend Jeff Zucker, who I work with and for. We go back decades together. I've been a big fan of all of their work and the leadership team, Ann, Casey, Andy, and the whole team across Warner, and all the success they have had as they have transformed the business for the future. We are here today because John and I and our boards are convinced that WarnerMedia and Discovery are better together. In fact, we think together the combination makes us the best media company in the world, with the brightest creatives in the world, both in front of and behind the camera, a vast content library in motion pictures and television, and global reach that positions the new company to attack this next generation opportunity to better serve consumers in every language, on every platform, and in every corner of the globe. The combination of these assets brings together the most valuable, important, and exciting IP in the world, more than 200,000 hours of content on day one, across the most popular programming genres: premium television and movies, animation, global sports and news, kids and family, and nonfiction lifestyle and real-life entertainment. There's no company that can bring that to the table. We will deliver to consumers the world's most complete and differentiated portfolio of brands and beloved franchises. From the storied Warner Brothers Studios, the pioneering and exceptional HBO, the extraordinary journalism at CNN, the remarkable love for the Discovery Channel, HGTV, Food Network, the Oprah Winfrey Network, the Turner Networks, and so much more. The new company will put storytelling, journalism, and creative talent at the center of everything that we do. With greater financial flexibility, strong free cash flow, and global growth that positions this new company to invest even more in content. Our core operating philosophy will be more investment on the screen, more resources for storytellers, and building the most compelling and fun creative culture in media. We have done this for decades, and I'm confident that this great new company will have the strongest, deepest, and most collaborative relationships in the creative community. This will be my #1 priority. The transaction we are announcing today creates an extraordinary entertainment company and accelerates and assures our place as a fully scaled and differentiated global streaming platform, powered by the opportunity to maximize the value of our estimated $20 billion a year in content spend. And we intend to lean in. The direct-to-consumer momentum on both sides will accelerate our ability to be one of the top streaming companies in the world. We will benefit from a balanced portfolio of content leadership in key areas, from the biggest tentpole films to live sports and news, beloved nonfiction and lifestyle, the leading television and film studio in the world, and the largest library of content, and taking that differentiated combination of quality programming above the globe, in every market in the world, on every platform. We'll have enormous flexibility in terms of how we package our streaming services, While we will be working through our strategic plans over the coming months, it's instructive to note that the leading streaming companies succeed in different models, from a bundled approach of complementary services to an all-in super service. And we will look at the range of options to unlock value here in the U.S. and around the world. This transaction will also create an enhanced linear business with more programming and creative opportunities and a sturdy global marketing platform. We cover all the key programming quadrants: scripted, news, unscripted, and sports. Turner's recent strategic pivot to lock up long-term live sports on TNT and TBS, Major League Baseball, NHL hockey, NBA basketball, and March Madness is a huge plus for the traditional business, alongside one of the largest collection of sports rights in the world, including our Eurosports networks, 3 sports networks in every country in Europe, global PGA rights, tennis majors, cycling, and the Olympics in Europe in this very short time. And of course, the exceptional journalism of CNN and CNN International that has carved out such a leadership position, #1 here in the U.S. and globally around the world. And we joined together with CNN with Discovery's news business in Poland, with TVN, and our other local news assets around the world. So thank you again, John. I couldn't be more excited about this opportunity, and I'm also humbled by the legacy of these companies and the massive opportunity ahead. Indeed, we stand today on the shoulders of mighty impressive list of the titans who brought us here, legendary visionaries that created these world-class businesses, from Ted Turner to Steve Ross, to John Hendricks, who created Discovery, Donald Newhouse and Bob Myron, who were there at the very beginning with John Malone, Ken Lowe, who created HG and Food, and finally, John Malone, who created everything in this business, and who has been a teacher and a best friend and really a father to me. And finally, of course, Jack, Harry, Sam, and Albert Warner, the brothers who started it all, who, like my family, came here from Eastern Europe with nothing. The story of the Warner brothers is the story of our industry, and it's been constant for 100 years. Success is about creative talent, in front of the screen and behind the screen, and fighting to create a culture that supports that creative vision. From the first talkies to the first high-definition channel to all the wondrous innovation we see today, these companies have always been on the forefront. But ultimately, it was and is all about storytelling. First on the big screen, then on the small screen, and now globally on every screen. That is what I'm most excited about, working with the creative industry. I'm going to find myself an office on the Warner Brothers lot. I'll be in New York. I'll be anywhere in the world where the creatives are to strive to drive the best creative culture in media today, because that's what's going to make us the great company and the great streaming company that John and I started talking about a few months ago. So I can't wait to get started, and John, back to you.
Thanks, David. I appreciate that. Before we take your questions, I want to emphasize a few other points that will positively impact AT&T shareholders and customers. We expect this transaction to close in mid-2022, and our goals for the new AT&T will be simple and straightforward. We plan to build on our strong momentum and mobility by increasing our wireless network investments and deploying the spectrum we acquired during the recent C-band auction to reach 200 million pops by the end of 2023. We also intend to more than double our current fiber footprint to reach 30 million customer locations by the end of 2025, with the single goal of offering the best fixed broadband service in the market. Finally, we'll have a tighter focus on the growing demand for connectivity, better financial resources and flexibility, and a management team aligned on executing this transformation that makes AT&T as effective and efficient as possible. So with that said, we look forward to taking your questions. Biani, could you give us our first question, please?
A reminder, please click on the raise hand icon to ask a question. When called on, please unmute your microphone and ask your question directly. We will now take our first question from Joe Flint at the Wall Street Journal. Joe, please unmute your microphone.
Hi, you can hear me okay? All right, guys, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Joey.
Great. David, you said you'll be looking for an office on the Warner Brothers lot, and there's maybe a couple of options. So I'm just going to say, what is up with Jason Kyler? Do you know if he's going to stick around? And how do you sort of see your management team versus the Warner team?
Jason is a fantastic talent. I was there in the beginning when he joined Hulu and built an extraordinary platform there. He's a huge talent. I'm going to let John specifically speak to Jason.
Hi, Joe. Jason remains the CEO of WarnerMedia, and as I'm sure you're aware, David's got a lot of decisions to make on personnel and how things are structured moving forward during this transition period. And as he works his way through it, I'm sure he'll be talking with folks about where that's going.
Okay, thanks, guys.
And now, Brian Steinberg from Variety. Please unmute your line.
Hi, can you hear me? Good morning. Hi, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hi, Brian.
How are you? Thanks for taking the question. A lot of people are focused on Jeff Zucker's role with the company. As you know, he expressed plans to leave at the end of this year. Do you see him perhaps continuing beyond that, given the new transaction?
You know, first, until the deal closes, we're going to fight to build the best Discovery on a parallel track as John and his team continues to make WarnerMedia an extraordinary company. And then when we do come together, we're looking to take the best and the brightest people. Jeff is an extraordinary talent. CNN is number one. The focus will be on talking to everybody at Discovery and everybody at WarnerMedia and figuring out how we put this company together. It's all about the talent. And so we'll be trying to figure out how do we get the best people to stay.
And now, Drew Fitzgerald from the Wall Street Journal. Please unmute your line.
Can you guys hear me?
We can, Drew.
Oh, okay. Just curious how this all came together all those months ago, who approached whom when you guys were having these discussions, and was the board vote from both respective companies on this unanimous?
Sure. Well, John and I have been good friends for a long time, and we share some passions together. One of them is golf. Neither one of us
Thought you were going to say
excel. Eating too. But we were supposed to be together at the AT&T, and because of COVID, we were both at home. And so I was sitting around on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and just texted John, and we ended up in a 2-hour conversation about the future of media, and we talked about where we both were, and that was really, I think that was the beginning of it for us, you know, for the two of us, I think.
Yeah, Drew, to answer your question, I cannot speak for the AT&T board. It was unanimous approval. And I would say that, you know, in my role, as I made in my opening comments, as the capital allocator in chief, I've been, you know, contemplating what the right structure for our business is for some time. And while David's accurate in his characterization of when he reached out to me and when we had a conversation, my thought process and deliberations that I've had with the board and what I thought was right for AT&T and where we saw the respective media and communications industries going has really been something I've been focused on since coming into this role in July. And this is kind of what I would call just the next orderly chapter of what that journey has been and that contemplation and deliberation has been.
Yeah, and our board was unanimous and enthusiastic. We think this transaction is a home run. And aside from all the brands, we've been on this global journey since I got to Discovery 15 plus years ago. So anywhere you go in the world, we have 10 channels or free-to-air channels, or we have sports all over Europe. And this combination, we started talking about this really a long, long time ago. Was there some way, without doing a transaction, because we always felt that our content in the US and then all of the local language content we have around the world, together with the incredible brands and talent at WarnerMedia, just kind of takes us at a level above everybody else with a diversity of content that's different and more compelling than anybody else. And so our board saw that, and that was kind of the guiding light for John and I, that we're not just better together, but we're the best together. And what I think was kind of really compelling to me was that throughout these discussions, John was always focused on how do we create what structure creates the most shareholder value for AT&T shareholders. It was so that was the journey. It was a journey of how we come together, but there was John's journey of what is the structure and what's the attack that creates the most value for AT&T shareholders.
And we think we have that.
And now, Brian Stelter from CNN. Please unmute your line.
Good morning. Since I'm sitting here in one of the CNN studios, I'm going to ask the question on behalf of the CNN staffers that are all asking me. Does CNN fit in this entertainment company? And do you intend to hold CNN or spin it off?
We love CNN. In fact, for us, if you go to Europe, we're entertainment, nonfiction, the leader in sports, and we've been on attack with news. We just made a very big investment in the UK, in terms of directional for us. And our plan was to roll across Europe, because we think one of the real differentiating features is live news, live sports. And when you put that together with entertainment and nonfiction, it's really compelling. And it's hard to match news and sports. You wake up in the morning and there could be a lot of great content out there, but everyone wakes up and wants to know what's going on in their world. Am I okay, and what's going on? And nobody does that better than CNN. I've been glued to CNN for the last several months. It's number one for a reason. And as I said, we do have news. We're the leader in news in Poland, and we've had a great experience with it. And I think with CNN's international business, this gives us a chance to really lean into that footprint.
And will you commit to the same independence, providing CNN's newsroom the same independence that Mr. Stenke has?
We're committed to have CNN have the greatest editorial integrity and to be as successful globally and to have the brand which you guys have built. But John Malone, in the very early days, was there to build CNN with Ted Turner. And so there's a tremendous amount of pride. And as someone who started in this business 30 years ago, CNN was the beacon, and it's the beacon today, and it should be the beacon everywhere in the world. So we're going to come in and we're going to be supportive, and we also intend to fund significantly the direct-to-consumer piece of it, because we think, as John and I have talked about it a lot, you guys have done a great job, but how do we continue to drive that? Because people want to get their news on every device.
And now Julia Borstein from CNBC. Please unmute your line.
Good morning, guys. Congrats on the deal. It sounds like you're not interested in divesting CNN. I'm just wondering if there are any other pieces you see that may not fit, and then also how you see uniting these streaming assets. Is this, are you going to be thinking about this as creating one sort of a portfolio of streaming options, sort of a la ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus, creating a giant streaming option? How are you going to be approaching streaming with this portfolio of assets going forward?
Well, first, we're not interested in selling anything. I think John and Jason and the team have aggregated the premier assets in media, and I think we fit together like a glove. One of the things that we provide when I look at Discovery Plus domestically, we have such low churn, and people are spending 3 hours a day with watching content on Food or HG or Discovery or Oprah, and so when you put that combination of really nourishing content with the blockbusters, I mean, this business is really, in terms of attraction, about the big blockbusters: Superman, Batman, Game of Thrones. I mean, there is no better IP in terms of attracting massive audiences than what John and the team have put together. And you know, one of the leaders in the streaming business said to me about 2 months ago, we were talking about Discovery Plus and what we have, a library just ourselves as big or bigger than Netflix. He said, if I had you, my churn would be 0. And now you take all that we have and all that John has built on and enhanced, and we want it all. We want to keep it all.
And now, Ed Lee from the New York Times. Please unmute your line.
Hey, folks. Thanks for taking the question. I've got one for you, David, and one for you, John. David, to start, there's some cost synergies in this deal, which clearly helps, but there's also some indebtedness that the new company will have. Can you guys talk about how much debt the new business will have and how much you can invest in streaming and everything going forward?
Sure. So we'll start with a little over $55 billion in debt. But this company is going to be a free cash flow machine. When we look out to 2023, we'll have $52 billion in revenue. Of that, $15 billion will be direct to consumer. I mean, talk about a company that has made a pivot with all the hard work for the last 3.5 years, and we'll talk about that later, that John has done and has had the courage to do. Because we're picking up this asset. We own all of our IP. And one of John's missions, we've been talking about it for years, is get back all that IP. Don't sell it to other players. And so we will have over $15 billion in direct-to-consumer, but over $8 billion in free cash flow. So you'll see that leverage, our leverage, come down very, very quickly. And we think that we have some upside on that with $14 billion of EBIT. And so there is a lot of synergy. We think over $3 billion in synergy. But the way we're going to run this company is the left side of this company is going to be everything other than the content. And on that, we're going to get really aggressive and drive productivity. We did it before with Scripps. We over-delivered, and we ended up with a stronger company. We ended up with a real mixture, almost, you know, it's like half and half. Half of the Scripps company that Ken Lowe built, half of the Discovery company. And so we think there'll be great synergy in finding the best and the brightest people. But the objective is attack that business with productivity and talent, great people and hard work, but then spend more money on content. We're going to be starting with $20 billion, and we want to invest in more. If we could find more great content, great talent, great directors, great writers, great producers, we want our company to be the place that people that want creativity, they want flexibility, they want to tell stories, will come to us. And if we're successful with that, the free cash flow is even going to grow. And
$20 billion is how much you plan to allocate towards investment? Is that on an annual basis, or what is that number?
$20 billion is what we spend now together. That's what we spend now on content together. And it's a very efficient model, I think about 60%. You see, we got $14 billion in EBIT in 23, and we're expecting more than $8 billion in free cash flow. And we have a team of drivers that are going to drive that.
Great. And one for you, John. When David mentioned that you guys were talking in secret several months ago and is a Greenwich Village brownstone, can you give us a little color? How did it start? What was, I mean, you guys closed on the deal just 3 years ago, and I guess a few months ago you're thinking about, well, maybe this needs to be offloaded. Can you give us some thinking about your thinking around that at that moment, and how you guys first started really talking about it, where it was?
Yeah, I won't say in secret. I thought we were discreet is maybe how I would describe it. Secret sounds like we were in the Batcave or something. Look, Ed, as I shared in my opening comments, my job as the CEO of AT&T is to turn out to the employee body who all have good ideas on how to grow this business and where to take it, and make sure that I facilitate those opportunities. And as you heard me discuss early on, whether it's continuing to build world-class wireless networks, driving more fiber into the infrastructure of the United States, given the importance of connectivity, the great work that was done at WarnerMedia to scale and launch what I believe will be one of the premier global direct-to-consumer businesses in HBO Max. There was a lot of effort at the front end of it that would not have occurred had the two businesses, AT&T and WarnerMedia, not come together. Normalizing carriage agreements, the distribution muscle that AT&T brought in, the great brands that WarnerMedia brought in. And that journey's been a really important and significant journey over the last couple of years, and it's been successful. And it became clear to me over the last several months, great work that Jason and the team have done over the last year, that we were hitting escape velocity on that. And as you know, we're launching an AVOD service this month. We begin our launch in Latin America, and looking out over the next couple of years on these great growth opportunities we have in front of AT&T in its entirety, whether it's fixed broadband, what we do in wireless, what we can do in growing the media business. It became clear to me that we were going to need a different capital structure to get that done. And it was important that I not do something in my decision-making that caused anybody to slow down in their execution and not seize that opportunity. And in this case, while we had a lot of benefits of having streaming together with our infrastructure and connectivity business, we've been driving down churn, our customer acquisition rates have been better. The reality is as streaming has evolved in the last couple of years, the global opportunity from a shareholder accretion perspective is far greater to seize that global streaming opportunity on a standalone basis with great assets and bring it together with depth of content, international distribution, than it is to continue to work on improving our domestic connectivity business. Not that it doesn't help it, but through partnership, David and I intend to continue to work together to make sure that HBO Max is part of the AT&T portfolio and we can be a strategic partner to him. And I think we have a means to do that, where we can kind of get the best of both worlds, but allow him now with a capital structure that has the flexibility to invest and grow. I expect, by turning over 71% of this company to AT&T shareholders, that number one, we're going to unlock some value of that great work that the WarnerMedia team has done by simply putting it out there in a combined media company. We'll see some multiple expansion that will be incremental value creation that will happen, I think, in fairly short order after close, beyond just the exchange prices we've been talking about in this transaction. And I think that's a really important thing. And AT&T shareholders still holding 71% of this can stay in and continue to take this great ride with David that he just described. And I think that's a good place for them to be. And at the same time, those that remain in AT&T stock will have the right capital structure so that I can turn back to the communications company employees and allow them to invest and grow this business. And so that's fundamentally where I'm at. It's really good for the shareholders of AT&T on both sides, and I think it's good for the employee bases on both sides of this company and ultimately our customers, because better products are going to come from the media company and the communications company by making this change.
You know, when I look at this, and as we were talking, I think of this as John and I spend the next couple of years building these companies. I see this as the number one media company in the world and the number one telecom communications company in the world. That's what our mission is. That's what we think can happen out of this. And I just have to really, as I look at what John has done, because years ago, I remember going in and talking to Time Warner many years ago before John took over, and looking at HBO with the idea that maybe this idea of us coming together with HBO is something that for years I've thought makes a lot of sense. But when I went in there's two ways you can run a media company. You know, aside from telling the great stories and building great content, is you can maximize the value of that by selling it, sort of like an arms dealer, and that's a very good strategy. You can create a lot of value, or you could aggregate that IP and invest for the long term to build asset value. And what John and the team were able to do was really formidable. Most of what HBO had was being sold. Anywhere you went in the world, you saw it on free to air, you saw it on other platforms. And so when you looked at HBO, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was generating a significant amount of value for shareholders, but not as IP owned to create and make the turn and make the pivot to build a direct-to-consumer business. And so John went on a mission to get that IP back. And it took courage because in the near term, it wasn't maximizing dollars, but it was maximizing the long-term vision of getting the IP back, the best IP in the world, and building a great best-of-class platform, both of which he did. And the reason I say that is I don't think this deal could have happened if he didn't spend the last 3.5 years on a mission to turn this company into a global IP company with best-of-class platform and own his IP that we can put together today with the IP that we own globally and accelerate right in. It's there for us. It's there for us because of the hard work that you and the team did and the vision that you had.
David's being incredibly gracious, but I want to give a nod to a lot of executives at WarnerMedia that have been through an awful lot the last couple of years that have just done a remarkable job at getting us to this point. And I'm excited about cutting them loose in a way that they can go and make this a global service. I'm a little sad about not having the long-term relationship moving forward with some of them. I've become very close, but this is the right thing to do in aggregate. Bioni, what's the next question?
Our next question will come from Anna Nicolau from the Financial Times. Anna, please unmute your line.
Hi, good morning. I have one for David and one for John. David, I was wondering just when you're kind of looking at this new company, what is the extent to which you're planning to integrate Warner with Discovery? Will there be a name for the new company? Do you envision combining HBO Max with Discovery Plus, or is it going to be a bundle? I mean, anything on your plans for that? And then John, I'm wondering a bit on just the timing of this all, of spinning off Warner about 3 years after buying it. Was it related at all to the pandemic or about AT&T stock price, which I know you've expressed displeasure with in recent months?
Go ahead.
Okay. We'll announce, we do have a name, and we'll announce it later this week or early next week. We're going to fully integrate it. We're going to be one company, one culture, one mission. Great stories, great content that entertains people in every language, everywhere in the world. And when we're at our best, hopefully we'll inspire. And we have that great opportunity. That's what we get to do in this business. We get to tell stories, we get to affect people's lives, and we're going to get a chance to do that everywhere in the world as one company, one culture, one mission. And so in terms of bundling or how we do it, we're going to do it differently. John and Jason are going to launch this AVOD in this month. We've learned a lot just in the last couple of years in going direct to consumer. You take a look at what Chapek and Bob Iger have done. They're doing a bundling strategy that's quite compelling. It's working very well for them. There are other strategies of creating a super PAC, and that's also working. It's working very well. It's working very well right now for WarnerMedia. We will have the flexibility here in the U.S. and around the world to determine how we create the ecosystem around this extraordinary IP that we have, and whether we offer it in a bundle or whether we offer it together. That'll be something that we'll be working on, and we'll see over the next few years as we learn more about what consumers want and how they want it.
Anna, to answer your question, I think I've been speaking to the WarnerMedia employees over several years that I expected there would be change in the structure of the media industry moving forward, and that there was probably likely to be further consolidation given that these global platforms clearly are going to require some scale to ultimately be successful. And the timing and why this is simply we have figured out this equation domestically in the U.S. And as I mentioned, we launched in Latin America starting in the month of June. We followed behind that in markets in Europe, and we're now at that point where That scale is growing pretty rapidly, and the capital demands associated with that, and the content demands to get the right kind of differentiated offer in these markets will increase and be more competitive. And this was the right time to put these assets together to seize that opportunity and ultimately maximize value in the direct-to-consumer streaming world. And I believe pretty strongly, if we thought that there was going to be structural change in the market, that probably better to initiate that rather than have to follow it or respond to it. And after thinking about what those options could be, I think it's an incredibly powerful combination to have WarnerMedia and Discovery come together. I got comfortable with that it was the right move, that moving now to make sure that we could set the table in the way we wanted to set it was an important thing to do, as opposed to responding to others that might move to consolidate. And getting this financial flexibility in the overall capital structure so that we can pursue the great growth in the connectivity business is equally as important to move on now, because I think the pandemic, to your question, showed us just how critical and important connectivity is. And I think our business can be stronger and better in that regard, and I intend to lead it there.
We have time for one last question. Our last question will be from Ken Lee at Reuters. Ken, please unmute your line.
Great, and that's Reuters. Thank you. Good morning, and thanks for taking the question. The last person on the line here, I wanted to double check responses to the previous questions from my peers. Just so I understand it, so Jason Kilar's position is still under negotiation in the new company. That's question one. Is that correct? And two, David, you mentioned and expressed your admiration and love for CNN, but just to double check on the question, is CNN a long-term part of the company?
Ken, Jason's still the CEO of WarnerMedia, and as I mentioned, David's got decisions he's got to make across a broad cross-section of how he wants to organize the business and who will be in what roles moving forward during this transition period. And as he moves through that process, I'm sure those decisions will ultimately set forward.
Just where I come from, Jack Welch hired me in early 1989 to launch a news network. Our intent at that time, before we launched CNBC, was to launch a news network, to take NBC News and create a news network. We ended up creating CNBC, and then later on, we worked to create MSNBC with Microsoft. And those businesses brought tremendous amount of value to NBC when I was there. And the currency of being the thing that people turn to in the morning to see where's their value, what's going on, where are the politics, is everything okay? It's even more important in a world where there's so much content out there and it's being commoditized in many ways. One of the reasons this transaction makes sense is only the best stuff matters. And what HBO and Warner Brothers on the TV and motion picture side have is the very best iconic IP in the world. Big brands that really matter to people. And the ability with CNN to lean into that, not only are we going to keep it, but as I said, we just did GB News in the last 90 days. We were already on a mission. Our mission was news, sports, entertainment, nonfiction. That was our mission across Europe. Now our mission is lean into news, take everything that we have already, and it's substantial in Europe, put it together with CNN, and be the world leader in news.
Okay, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this morning. I appreciate it. I think from my point of view, you only need to listen to David and his view of where this is going to understand this is a wonderful opportunity for an AT&T shareholder to move forward in combination with Discovery to build a premier media asset. And I couldn't be more delighted. I think we've set this up in a way where David and his leadership and how he settles this company in has an opportunity to create something incredibly special, carrying the AT&T shareholder along for the ride at 71% of the ownership of this, and having the flexibility to seize those opportunities I'm absolutely delighted about that, and I can tell you personally, my little splits that come with that, given I'm an AT&T shareholder, will be continuing to ride on David and his future. So David, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you, John. And I'll just finish by saying that I think AT&T is an extraordinary company, but the structure that John put together with his leadership, I expect AT&T is going to be the #1 telecom and communications company in the world, and we're not going to stop until, for the 71% of those shareholders that are part of this new company, we will not stop until we are the #1 global entertainment company, reaching people on every device. You're giving us all the tools we need. We got to work really hard with the great talent that you've hired, and off we go together.
Thank you all.
To learn more about AT&T, subscribe to this channel, visit the AT&T newsroom, or watch more videos in the playlist seen here.